Hey, FanboyNation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching
Fanboy.
Fanboy, etc.
FanboyNation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
You may have seen this man in the I'm Funnier Than comedy contest. You've probably heard him on JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Dragon Ball Super, and Sword Art Online. Currently, he is a part of the Rick and Morty Season 7 premiere, which is coming soon to Cartoon Network and also on HBO
I gotta
Max.
stop you. I gotta stop you.
Sure.
RC, I gotta stop you. Season 7 was like a year ago, bud.
What's that?
We just had the finale to Season 8.
Thank you. For some reason I said Season 7.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, you were saying it as the premiere, but like, oh, okay, Season 8 is premiering on HBO. So okay.
All right. So one more time from the top. All right. So here we go. This man won the 2014 I'm Funnier Than comedy contest. You've probably heard him on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Dragon Ball Super, and Sword Art Online. We are getting ready for the premiere of Season 8 on HBO Max for Rick and Morty. He's voicing Mr. Poopy Butthole. Jon Allen, how are you today?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
I am great. It's got to be fun when you get a script and that's the character name on there that goes, hey, you know what? You're the Poopy Butthole guy.
Yeah, tune in for my next big role, Mr. Burpee Ballbag. That should be a fun one to receive an Annie Award for.
Yeah. Well, listen, the Annies are every year. They're great. I think the last time I went, it was held at UCLA. But, that's got to be the perfect one where you see Mr. Poopy, voice of Mr. Poopy Butthole, award or, best voiceover of the year.
Yeah, let's put that into the universe and maybe it manifests.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be fun. I'd love to have somebody really distinguished present that award, like a Liam Neeson just comes up like, is this for real or is somebody pulling a prank on me? Poopy Butthole, really? But
he just did do the reboot of Naked Gun, so it could happen.
Yeah, he's no stranger to farce comedy. I mean, ever since I saw him do the bits on Family Guy and Ted, or Ted 2, I believe it was. I forget which of the two, but like the trick cereal bit. Yeah, I mean, I had no doubt that he'd be able to pull off Naked Gun, but even still, I was surprised at how good it was.
We haven't had a comedy in a very long time. Everybody's been far too serious, so we definitely needed that laugh.
Yeah. I mean, there's the Marvel stuff with the quips all over the place, but I mean, to just boom, boom, boom with the jokes, not an ounce of fat on it. It was just rapid fire, and it is, to your point, it is refreshing in this day and age.
Yeah. Well, you're a stand-up comic yourself. You won the 2014 I'm Funnier Than contest. What made you interested in stand-up comedy? Because stand-up is not an easy medium. It's you with the mic. You got to deal with drunk people. They're hecklers. Sometimes the joke lands in Chicago, but it doesn't land in Detroit. What landed last week at the Laugh Factory isn't going to land this week at the Improv. So what was the catalyst to get you into that?
Well, I mean, and also to your point, I noticed at a certain time and place that, oh my God, these are like the same conditions for like a police interrogation where they're trying to intimidate you, where the light's on you, you can't see anybody else. I hope they like me, kind of a thing. It was just, I think, the natural progression of things. Back in 2005, I was doing a lot of theater in San Diego. The Comedy Store South in La Jolla was right there. They had an open mic. It was at the time, I think, the only real open mic that anybody really knew of for the most part. And so I just took a crack at it, did 3 minutes. Got a couple of laughs. Obviously, nothing's going to be super polished the first time, and just kind of stuck with it over the years.
And first you work on your type 5, then you try to work on your type 10, then you try to get your half hour. So
Yep.
the build-up's there.
And then the headlining, the 45 to 60 minutes, yeah.
As it seems like stand-up comedy would be the perfect catalyst. That and sketch comedy would be the perfect catalyst into voiceover, because you can pick up, and especially live theater, where the voices change, the personalities change. If you're in a scene with somebody and you're actually sharing the booth at the time, and they ad lib, you get to play off each other. So it seems like that's a great catalyst leading into voiceover.
There's definitely synergy between those. Yeah. I mean, that's why when people ask me about how to get started and what they should be doing, I say do a little bit of everything. Improv as well is something that is an invaluable skill in voiceover, and also in stand up and vice versa. It's just going to make you a stronger performer all across the board.
And when you get to perform live theater versus behind the mic, a lot of people don't realize that the mic window is about this big, and you have to bring all the energy that you have on that stage into a 6x6 voice box, or I'm sorry, a microphone frame, and make it sound like you're running across the city. When you get to change those skills up and go from being big to the people in the balcony versus bringing it all here, how does that transition for you as a performer?
I think the idea is to, if you've done theater already, have the muscle memory there as far as, I mean, there's obviously nuances between the two. You can't be all over the place. You have to stay on mic. But I think mentally, it's a lot of the same psychology as far as putting yourself in the shoes of whatever character you're playing. And then just, immersing yourself in that as much as possible. And hopefully that translates to the audience when the show is out.
As also a stand-up comic, before we get back into Rick and Morty, or at least get into Rick and Morty, what was the first joke you ever wrote? And what was your favorite joke that you wrote that might not have hit as well as you had hoped with the audience?
Well, luckily, a friend from San Diego was visiting not too long ago, and he actually asked the same question. So it's still kind of in my mind. But even if he hadn't, I do remember the first couple bits that I did on stage for stand-up. One was about like being named John and working at Papa John's, which was my first job, and how, some people would try to be cheeky and ask if I was the owner or was I the Papa John. And yeah, of course. That's why I'm answering the phones for $4.25 an hour. And I think I had another one as well. I know I had another one as well about just poking fun at the little public service announcements they'd put at the end of episodes of G.I. Joe. Just how dumb these kids were and how they were like, ooh, some power lines. Let's see what happens if we touch them. And then there's Sergeant Slaughter right there like, no, don't do that. What are you thinking? Or don't put your face in that lawnmower, kid. You'll break the lawnmower. So those got over pretty good. I think I'm sure there has to have been ones that didn't get over as well, but I don't remember those quite as much because the magic of suppressing trauma, I think.
You mentioned G.I. Joe, but you're also a voice actor. Have you gotten to work with Charlie Adler and Mike Bell since they worked on those cartoons?
I have not been on shows with them to my knowledge, but I have studied under Charlie Adler. Fantastic actor, fantastic teacher. Such a joy to get to interact with him, and I recommend anybody looking to get into voiceover do the same. And Michael Bell, I met while I was on the picket line for the interactive media agreement strike this past year. So, I mean, he's not 15 or nothing. So to see him walking the line along with us in front of like Warner Brothers and stuff was really admirable. So,
yeah, but it's also got to be fun that you meet somebody that was a voice of your child, and now you're in the same or childhood, and now you're in the same industry with them.
Absolutely. It's the same way when I got to study under Pat Fraley, who was the voice of Krang and Baxter Stockman and Ninja Turtles, which I watched growing up. It's like, it's surreal. It's like, is this happening? That muscle memory sort of kicks in of like, this is a voice I heard when I was like 6, and now he's directing me. It's fantastic.
That's got to be the fun part. A fun part about it. I mean, obviously there's the creativity aspect in creating the character. Doing ADR for, say, Dragon Ball Super, you have the Japanese model that you have to follow and try to, I guess, tone match would be the best way to do it, because you can't exactly sound like them because of the language difference. But, here, let me rephrase that. With something like, anime, where you have to match the beats and try to have like the same cadence as the character versus creating your own character ahead of time for a new property, which seems to be more enjoyable for you in that regard?
Well, I do like the some people find ADR very challenging, where you're matching, where the footage is already complete and you're dubbing to picture. I actually really enjoy. I see it like a game. Like, can I make this dialogue fit in this amount of time? With Dragon Ball Super, the character I was playing, they actually didn't want a one-to-one match of what was done in the Japanese version. They wanted to go in a slightly different direction with it. Raleigh Pickens he heard something on my demo that he really liked and thought would be appropriate that matched Negrisi visually. It had some more of like a demon growl. So we went with that. But I did still, obviously, because it's dubbing the picture, focus on timing and matching cadence in that respect.
It's almost like trying to beat the GPS.
Yeah, but you'd asked about like which do I prefer, prelay or dubbing to picture. You have more room to create when you're when you record first and they animate to you. So that is more. There's more freedom in that to create. It is more fun, I would say. But I do also get immense joy from dubbing to picture because of the fact that I find it fun. I had another thought, but I lost it.
Have you ever noticed that some of your mannerisms end up in the final product, where there's the camera on you in the booth and they're recording you, say for Mr. Poopy Butthole, and then all of a sudden your hand gestures or a twitch that's something that you might do in real life gets incorporated into the animation?
Well, I don't think they're recording me visually when I'm recording for Mr. PB. I hope not, because I might have to kind of contort my face into weird ways sometimes to sort of pull off that character. I mean, there is a camera on me because there's people on a Zoom call helping with the direction. But as far as mannerisms that I do that maybe weren't in the script but end up in the final product, I do get asked to improv and see what I can come up with, and I'm happy to see that some of those have made it into the final product.
Yeah, that's also got to be fun too. Like if you're sitting there watching it with your mom or your dad and they just start nudging you, yeah, you've been doing that since you were a toddler.
Yeah, I would say so.
You're a San Diego native, one of the most beautiful cities in all of California. If I ever decide to leave Orange County, I'm going to San Diego because there's not much better.
Good luck, though. It's getting more and more expensive.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
But growing up by the beach, and then there was so much to do in San Diego. Like people were always, when the Chargers were there, people were like, "Oh, nobody's going to the Chargers games." I was like, "Well, one, they're not winning, and then two, you got the beach, you got PB, you got Mission Bay, you got all these other places." What was like your scene in San Diego that you enjoyed going to most, besides San Diego Comic-Con, since that was in your backyard?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say I think it's sweet that when I moved up to Los Angeles full time, the Chargers missed me and decided to move up here. But as far as just like things to do for fun down there, I mean, I grew up in Ocean Beach, so the beach was right there. That was definitely something, and it was much more convenient to go to than it is up here in Los Angeles, I would say. Concerts, we used to have so many more venues to see music. There's still a bunch, but like Fourth and B is gone now. Really just the House of Blues as far as stuff on that level in the Gas Lamp area. We had a number of theme parks, obviously. SeaWorld. Legoland was not there when I was growing up, but we did have Belmont Park and Marshall Scotty's, I want to say. So, there's no shortage of places for mom and dad to take the kids to, I would say, in San Diego. Balboa Park, all the museums there, and just taking in the sights.
No, for sure, man. And I also found out that you have been active in the pro wrestling world. I've been in it as a writer and as a ring announcer. You, as a commentator, an actual wrestler.
Yep.
What made you want to get in the ring? Like, I can tell you, when I started, I was in college, and it was up north with APW, All Pro Wrestling. And the very first match I saw was Vicious Vic Grimes. Vic was in WWE for a blip, but he was in ECW and XPW. And the very first match is that he climbed to the rafters and went through 3 tables on top of Robert Thompson, and they looked at me, you're like, you thinking about getting in the ring? No, I'm good. I will stick with judo and freestyle and collegiate wrestling. When you got into wrestling, like, what was the catalyst for you to get in the ring? Because like I grew up with the Road Warriors, I grew up with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, Roddy Piper. Like those were the guys that I was a little kid that got into, and then of course Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression. But like, what got you to say, I got to get in the ring there?
I would say because I'm not very bright. It, it hurts. What happened was I'd actually started as a commentator, and then I got asked to be somebody's manager, and then from there I was sort of getting heat, as we say in the business. And it during there was a Halloween show in 2012 where they said, "Oh, Jon looks so much like Stevie Richards. What if we had him do Big Stevie Cool from the BWO for a match?" They'd already been throwing me into some battle royals, which is, you don't need to know too much for that because there's so many bodies in there that you don't really have room for what we call high spots, typically just sort of punch, kick, and tease going over the top. But for the match in 2012, I got some training primarily from Shannon Ballard of the Ballard Brothers, who you might have seen if you've been to shows in Orange County back in the day. And that was sort of what started that.
Wrestling too, so.
I'm sorry?
I was with Mach 1 Wrestling, so yeah, I was familiar with the Ballard Brothers.
Yeah, I still text with Shane, like, especially lately with this Raja Jackson stuff. We text like all the time.
I wasn't going to bring up the Raja thing because it's been done to death, but we're happy that Sid is home.
Yep.
That's what we're going to say.
The first place really that I started, it was a group that was using AWA. I don't know if they had full license to do that, but they were. So American Wrestling Alliance in San Diego, and then some lucha stuff in the Escondido area, LLII, were the 2 places I started out. There was one other, but he's not around. I don't feel like giving that one press.
Gotcha. No, because it's just interesting. Like people don't always see the crossover. Like pro wrestling, there's the instant gratification, just like live theater. Except you're getting hit with a steel chair. And then there's the delayed gratification with voiceover because you've laid down the tracks and now you got to wait 6 months to a year for the animation to be done before they decide. So, thank you. So, depending as well. And then, that gets released. How'd you shift between the instant gratification of being in the ring and in live theater to now having to wait for the delayed gratification for the premiere, especially with Rick and Morty season 8 coming out?
I would say that the foreboding presence of a non-disclosure agreement makes it very easy to hold your tongue. At least for me. Some people get in trouble by they got to let the cat out of the bag, and then they get in some trouble for it. But with me, I recognize that you don't want to spoil Christmas, as it were, and tell the kids what they're getting. They want to handle the marketing. They want to make the big announcement. So I let them do that. And then once I've got the green light, I do what I can to help promote. But I don't think it's too hard to go between the two because I do have things where I can get my instant gratification. If I really need the attention, I can just, do stand up somewhere and get my fill that way. And then also I get booked a couple times out of the year to appear at fan conventions, and that helps as well.
No, that's definitely got to be a lot of fun too, especially when people are like, this line from season 2, episode 3, it stuck with me forever. Can you do it for me? Because like now you have to be refreshed on the work that you've already done.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good like OCD brain for that sort of thing. So luckily, I appreciate it. I know a lot of actors don't. Because it's I don't know, maybe too fanboyish, or they feel put on the spot trying to remember something that they did 10 years ago. But I like doing it because that's kind of what I'm there for, is to enhance their convention experience in that way. So if they refresh my memory as far as what the line is, great. Sometimes I remember it without that, depending on what the project is or was.
No, because Phil Lamar had said something like that. He's like, please refresh my memory of the line because I only recorded it once, and you've watched it far more than I spent time recording it. So that's always helpful when the fans remind you of the line.
Yeah, I'll try to go back and watch some of it to see how things came out, and also for that purpose, if I need to recreate it, it's helpful to have it fresh in my head.
Is it also surprising when you go back and rewatch it to sit there and go, "Oh, they took take two instead of take five"?
Or they took both out sometimes. Yeah, I found that out in there was a character I did in season 8. In the script, he was called Bug Uncle, but I guess they went with Uncle Scoob. And you still hear he's in the final episode of the season. You still hear him laughing it up with Rick, but the line about them liking mole weevils isn't there. I assume for timing purposes.
Makes sense. But it's got to be exciting that season eight's coming out on HBO Max. It's gonna end up on Adult Swim with Cartoon Network. That's got to be a great recognition for all the effort that you've put in and the time it took to build your career, because this isn't an overnight success story. You've been doing this for well over a decade, closer to two at this point. Yeah. How exciting is that also for you that, the time has come and you're like, all right, my spot, I've made it to this point.
Well, I haven't been contributing to the show that long. I was brought in for season 7 and onward, so it hasn't been as long for me. But I think it is validating for it to be on that platform. There's a lot of other shows that maybe started on simply one network, and then as the popularity grew and the demand for it grew, they were being broadcast on several channels at a time. Family Guy comes to mind as far as one that's had that sort of success. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it potentially reaching an even wider audience than it has already. And it's obviously a big coup for the entire team.
I'm also a physical media guy, and I like to have like the DVDs or the CDs. Or
Sorry, it was like thunder, like somebody dropped something and it sounded like thunder was going on or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you heard it.
No, I didn't hear it, so we're okay.
Okay.
But I was saying I'm a physical media guy. That way, if I come to a convention, I can have you sign, season 7. I can have you sign, one of the other DVDs I have in my collection, or if you're selling those 8x10s, there's something to sign.
Yep.
It's become difficult. Like we've become so dependent on streaming that like I can't have you sign my phone if like you released a brand new album, or I've been watching it.
Although for the right price, I'd be willing to do that.
See, that works. We'll bring the gold Sharpie.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's something unique that someone has had you sign? Whether it was obviously a Funko Pop, if you have one of those, that's not as unique as it used to be. But what's something unique that someone wanted you to sign for them?
Probably the weirdest one to date. I just recently had the chance to sign on the sale pavilion at San Diego Comic-Con International. And I believe this was the last day I was there, the Sunday signing. Somebody brought a plumbus to my table and asked me to sign that. And I actually had my handler get some footage of me doing that, because this is just such a weird thing where if you know what a plumbus is, it has the little doodle on it, which is a little bit suspect. And yeah, I would say an actual plumbus from Rick and Morty.
We've seen the handlers at the conventions. We've talked to quite a few of them. What's it like having a handler the first time you go to a convention? Like, what's that experience like? Because you have someone sitting in the booth with you, handling the money, making sure that the line moves quickly, and actually making sure that you have bottles of water or whatever other need that you have at that point. When the first time you get a handler at your first convention, what does that feel like?
It's nice. It's nice to have someone to kind of banter with for those moments where you should you not have anybody in line to talk to. And some are more helpful than others. I can remember doing one in South Dakota, and my handler came up to my table and was like, "Hey, John, you hungry? You need anything?" I'm like, "Actually, yeah, we're getting close to lunchtime. I could probably use like a burger or a hot dog or something." Cool. Well, the food court's right over there. It's like, dude, what do you? I thought, okay. It was almost as silly as if like, like, "Hey, would you like some pizza?" "Sure, I'd love some pizza." "Well, thanks for helping me fill out this survey. We don't actually have any, but now I know for the census, I guess."
Right. I got you with that, man. I'll tell you a story, something similar, at the end of the call because I don't want to put this person on blast. But you know, as we continue with season 8 about to premiere, the excitement is coming around. You've built your fan base. What would you like to be able to tell fans, when they come to your booth and want to have a conversation with you? Not necessarily protocol wise, but like, hey, let's keep it casual. Like, don't be too nervous because you've heard me so often. Because some people get really nervous and like, oh my God, he's a celebrity. He's done these voices and I've watched, Dragon Ball Super 18 times in a row or whatever. What would you like that experience to be, not only for them, but for you as well?
I usually like not to put myself over too much, but there's some people that have come to the table like kind of shaking, and I'm like, it's just me, man. I mean, like, I don't want to ruin the experience by, coming down from Mount Olympus too much, but I'm just a guy who grew up in San Diego, like doing voices, and now I'm at this table signing stuff. It's surreal for me too. But you don't want to go too much in there into the like self-deprecating, because then it's like, oh well, then why am I waiting in line to meet this guy?
Right.
So it's a tricky little balance.
Right.
But I'm always honored, like frankly, when anybody comes up to talk to me at the table, because this sounds like an airline thing, but we know you have many choices of voice actors to meet, and we appreciate you meeting us. But just enjoy it, take in the moment, and have fun. Probably would be the advice.
Jon, where can we find you on social media to connect with you, to talk about all your work, to talk about wrestling, to talk about AJ Lee coming back to WWE? Because we see that
confirmed?
Coming. It's not confirmed, but it's been heavily teased. So we pretty much feel that's going to happen on SmackDown on Friday.
Oh, wow. That would be fun. We haven't seen her in a while.
Right.
They can find me. I've got a Facebook like page, facebook.com/Jon Allen VO. Insta is the Jon Allen. X is King Jon Allen. I'm sorry, they're all different. I got on each one at a time because I was dragging my feet on each one. Google Plus, no, that's not around anymore. Blue Sky, I believe, is the Jon Allen as well. And that's, tell me if there's others that I'm pretty sure I still have a Twitch one, but I don't stream on there.
Because, Jon Allen is such an uncommon name.
I tell you, if you just search Jon Allen actor, you'll find me as opposed to a football player or a magician in England. That's the way to go.
Awesome. Oh, by the way, what was your wrestling name?
Oh, I would just go by the Jon Allen. Otherwise, there's a couple other shows. When I wrestled for Sin Bodhi's Freak Show Wrestling, he had me under a number of gimmicks, but for a lot of years we were doing a Trump impression thing, and to try and give me some branding, he would call me Jonald Trump, which I was doing as a spoof, let's be clear, not as a mascot. And for Brian Kendrick's Wrestling Pro Wrestling, I wrestled as Ricotta Flair, and that could come back at some point, who knows. But yeah, we were doing like, he came to me with the idea of like, hey, what if Ric Flair was made out of cheese? And I said, we can try it, and it got over like gangbusters.
I dig it. I love Sin. Sin's a great guy. So, but Jon Allen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Season 8, Rick and Morty, coming to HBO Max and Cartoon Network for the Adult Swim block. It's been a great pleasure. Hopefully we get to do this face-to-face next time.
That would be fun. Thank you so much for having me.